Hey, moon lovers. Welcome to another episode of All Things Moon, Lunar Wisdom for Everyday Life with myself, Kelly Jones. I'm thinking though that maybe I ought to change this podcast to All Things Technology with Kelly Jones. Because if you have been listening to any of my previous podcasts, you know what a pickle I get myself in with technology. So we have this new Riverside site, and I have this fancy pod mic, and it seems to create problems with my laptop overheating. And last time when I was recording, I thought I was filming myself. And it turned out I had the setting on audio only. So apologies if you were hoping to see me, because that didn't happen. So I think I'm going to celebrate my successes. And today, my success is that I have worked out how to use my iPhone as the camera. And I've managed to hook it and fix it with much fun on top of my laptop. So you are seeing me through a better camera. And I finally had all that set up, and suddenly my ring light, which you can see glaring in my glasses there, my ring light suddenly went off. So I have another ring light, which I brought down, and that didn't work either. So I worked out then that it was the plug that had gone. So I changed the plug and went back to the original ring light. And I'm here. I did play around with trying to use natural light and changing the camera angle and all kinds of shenanigans here. So, using my own advice, my own Strala way of doing things, I went outside, put my feet on the ground, took a few nice deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And finally, I'm here. So I have got notes on my lap because, to just wing it today would be pushing myself just one step too far. I have actually stopped and made myself a massive cup of rose and lavender tea here, which is a little bit too hot to drink at the moment. And I've also taken a very large dose of my own homemade rose elixir to keep myself nice and calm, to uplift my mood. So I'm celebrating the fact that I've managed to stay cheerful no matter what. And I'm hoping that this records correctly and properly. But, if it doesn't, it's still progress. Still progress. As long as I manage to get this podcast out to the world and someone listens to it, I feel like I have achieved something. So, and we have another full moon in Capricorn. It's full moon in Capricorn part 2. So, like, very sensible, practical, quite restricting bookends on a very explosive few weeks. Capricorn is about the dog determinedly, like the mountain goat, climbing and plodding its way without giving up until it gets to the top. So I am going to utilize that energy and keep plodding on until I get this thing down. So what have I got to tell you about? So if you'd like to know a lot more in-depth stuff, this evening I have got an online moon ceremony. So I hold one of those every new moon, every full moon, as much as is physically possible for myself. And so that'll be at 8 p.m. till 9:30 p.m. UK time. I doubt very much that you're going to get to listen to that tonight because this podcast is going out Sunday afternoon. So just for future reference, keep an eye on all my channels to see when the next moon ceremony is happening. And, if I get really smart, I might even be able to record that and put some of that out for you as well. So you get an idea of what an online moon ceremony is all about. So, since last week, I think I told you all about the Mars Uranus conjunction with the fixed star Algol in the mix. The fixed star Algol myth is all around decapitation, losing one's head, maybe people in power losing their power. And just about every astrologer that I know, apart from a mere couple, have talked about what's gone on this week out in the public arena about somebody nearly losing their head. And yes, people in positions of power may be losing their power. And I'm not going to harp on about politics and stuff. It's really not my subject. I like to keep things as light as possible, but also, in the grounded reality of this Capricorn energy and Saturn's seriousness, something very serious did happen. There has been mob violence in the UK, in this country, which algo is another thing that it represents. So we have seen some very literal playing out of the not predicted but highly suggested could be likely to happen type scenarios. And we have literally seen them. And I really do pray that all of you out there that are listening to this haven't experienced any of that stuff personally. It was showing up in the 10th house, which is the house of all things sort of governments and corporations and top down power structures. And so that is where it has showed itself out, and hopefully it hasn't showed itself in your own personal world. I can honestly say that I haven't had any of those occurrences in my world personally at all, so I am trusting that is the same for everyone out there. But if you have got any stories, then please do let me know, because it's always useful to know how this stuff is playing out in the real world. So the sun today is just still in Cancer. It's about to move into the sign of Leo tomorrow. So we will notice a sizable shift in the energy of everything. But we are today still in this very sort of sensitive Cancerian. This Cancer season has been quite serious, to say the least, because we have been like two, as I said, like bookends. It's been wrapped up in this very serious Saturnian, Capricornian, restrictive energy. And, so we've got the sun at 29 degrees. In astrology, we use 0 to 29, not 1 to 30, but there are 30 degrees in each zodiac sign. So the sun is at the very, very end of Cancer. We've got the moon completely opposite. So when we have a full moon, it's always in the opposite sign. So it's at 29 degrees of Capricorn. 29 degrees is known as the anaretic or critical degree. It's that end point. A full moon is the end, the culmination point. Otherwise could be known as a breaking point, where everything becomes more extreme. So it could bring a feeling of, do you know what, I really need to take a break. This Capricorn energy is making me work. I've been working really hard, working like a dog. It has a sense of urgency in there of like, I've got to get stuff done. And this week really felt like that for me. I had so much booked in, albeit a lot of it was very joyful. There was some really hard work in there. So Tom, my partner's gardening business, is at its busy peak time, and we had been on holiday, so there was a lot of catching up to do. The weather's turned good this week, so it's been really hot and sweaty work as well, cutting massive hedges and stuff like that. Also, I had a couple of belated birthday lunches to attend, which was really joyful. I went to one of the RHS gardens here near Chelmsford called Hyde Hall. I took my lovely cleaner there for her birthday treat. I had a birthday treat with my goddess group down at Dedham, which is known as Constable Country, very beautiful by the river there. So I've had lots of fun, lots of hard work, and lots of things to get going as well. And Tom had asked me if I would go to his parents today because we haven't seen them for a really long time. And in true Capricorn setting my boundaries style, I said yes. And then I got the courage up to actually say, do you know what? I think I've overloaded myself and I need this Sunday time to get all my stuff done. I have a moon ceremony this evening, so I would be rushing home from his parents. And this way, he's been able to go on his own, take his time, not be rushed with any pressure. And I've been able to get on with my technical shenanigans here today. So yeah, there could be this anoretic degree can also lead to having trouble making decisions, with that urgency when you feel like you just can't decide and you've got to do something. It really can bring up that. So, use what use the tools you've got, use what I share, and stopping, noticing how you feel. Maybe get on your yoga mat, just sit down, have a nice calming herbal tea, get your journal out, just notice how you're feeling. Take a moment. It will be worth it so that you can go forwards more clear, more calm, with some clarity. So as I said, this is the second full moon in a row in the sign of Capricorn. That's because the first one was literally at 1 degree, and this one is at 29 degrees. It's very unusual for there to be 2 full moons in a row in the same sign, and it is what is known as once in a blue moon. It doesn't mean the moon will be blue, but it does mean that it is a rare occurrence or an unusual occurrence. So what else can I tell you about what's been going on? So as we know, there's been some very explosive, combustible energy happening in between these 2 full moons. And the Capricorn energy asks us to be sensible, mature, realistic about what's happening, to not get caught up in all the drama. So I do believe, if all this what had happened in the past few weeks happened during Leo season without this Capricorn energy, it might have been harder to stay out of the drama. And remember, tomorrow we are going into a more dramatic, showy season. So if you do feel that coming up, just remember to go back to the breath, come back into your body and ground yourself. Not get caught up in the chaos of the external world. Maybe grab your journal and sit down and reflect with this theme of this full moon. How far have you come? How much have you managed to be more mature and sensible and realistic since the first one during this time? So I know that in my own personal situation here, I tend to be a little less dramatic and a little bit more calm about situations. Tom is an Aquarius. His opposing sign is Leo, but he can step into drama when something comes up that feels overwhelming for him. And I have noticed that he really has been practicing being much more calm and sensible and mature. So even this situation of me not going with him today, he's really taking it in his stride and, dealing with it in a much more adult way. And that's what this energy is asking us to do, to deal with things in a more adult way. During a full moon, the sun, which is opposite, is illuminating whatever is going on fully to be seen. So to gain awareness, the moon is the unconscious, the sun is the conscious. So it's allowing us to be more conscious of what's going on unconsciously, what we may not have been aware of, what's been hidden from our sight. So it's the sun with all these end degrees that are going on. We've literally got Pluto is sitting at 0 degrees Aquarius. Pluto is currently retrograde, and Pluto will be moving into Aquarius in November fully for the next 20 years. But Pluto still hasn't quite finished purging all the things that needed purging within all things Capricorn. So he is just about to, that's why he's sitting next to the moon. So Pluto and the full moon are conjunct each other, they're next to each other. So this really sort of serious pulling up of all the underworld stuff that Pluto does is very, very obvious to everyone right now, unless you really, really are not taking any notice. But if you are aware and taking notice, you will see that maybe not just personally, but collectively out in the world, we're seeing this big purge of all things that need to be seen and sorted, got rid of, so we can move into this Aquarius time where everything becomes more circular, more unified, more humanitarian than it currently has been. And because of this last bit of purging, right up until I think it's the 19th of November, it isn't going to feel like the age of Aquarius has arrived. It really is going to feel like, oh my gosh, it's got worse. The power grabbing, the losing of power will always make people hold on for dear life and do whatever it takes to get there, to hang on to that. And that's probably the energy we're going to see. So, without wanting to put anybody in any anxiety or fear, it's to sit and observe, take that eagle's perch, as Pam Gregory says over and over and over again, and notice what it's guiding you to do. We can see what maybe it's guiding the world to do, but what is it guiding you to do that you can make the most difference in your own life, which will make the most difference in the world directly around you, which will always then have that knock-on ripple effect. Emotions are always heightened at a full moon. It is the end of Cancer, this more extreme breaking point. So if you do feel emotional today, then, forgive yourself, be kind, and find that compassion for yourself to just sit and feel what you're feeling. I didn't sleep that well last night, so I could really feel that moon coming, and it was actually at its fullest at 17 minutes past 11 this morning UK time. So it's probably why it's taken me this long. It's now 3:30 in the afternoon, so it's taken me that long to get to actually recording this, which is no different to any other time really for me. So we've got this moon, sun and moon opposite, sun in Cancer, the mother, moon in Capricorn, the father, this mother-father energy. So the journey of becoming an emotional adult, or emotionally adulting ourselves, of becoming self-responsible, is very much what we're being called to do. So when you do sit down with your journal and reflect, or just sit down and think about things, then maybe have a look in your life as to where that's showing up for you. If you do know your birth chart, then you can have a look to see where your rising sign is, and that will allow you to find out then which area of life this particular energy is going to show up for you most. So I know for me that it is showing up in my second house, which is finances, material possessions, and self-worth, self-value. Probably top of that list for me is to look at my self-worth and value, and how that is providing financially for me, or getting in the way of that providing financially for myself. Also, this past week, I have been very, very conscious of my material possessions. So, very mundane things like, I'm really noticing that I need a new washing up bowl. Tom doesn't really understand what that's all about, but my inner Virgo needs a lovely, clean, nice new washing up bowl. It really does. And I've noticed that I have a lot of old things that are really getting worn out. My kitchen has been, the kitchen I have had since I moved into this house, and it was there before I lived here. So I've lived here for 18 years. So if that gives you an idea of how old my kitchen is. And I've suddenly had this desire to have some new material possessions. And I know that they ultimately don't make you fulfilled. But when this is showing up in that house area for me, then I know that I'm got full permission to focus on those things, to sit and look at my finances and see how I can do things better than I'm currently doing, and what's getting in my way of that, maybe around my self-worth.